Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Cynthia Tomaine with Interactive Brokers, and thank you for joining today's webinar where we're going to be taking a look at ways that you can make good use of your time when taking a look at earnings reports. I'm very pleased to have with us Nicholas Carreras, who is a product manager at Senteo. So, Nick, I'm going to go ahead and pass you the controls. If you would let me make sure that I can access this. Okay, here I have it. I'll go ahead and pass you those controls, and we'll go ahead and get started here today. Thanks very much for joining us, Nick. If you can share your desktop, we'll get underway.
I should be sharing my screen. Thank you very much, Cynthia. Thank you to Interactive Brokers. And welcome everybody to Senteo. And this is the third part of the idea with optimizing your workflow during earnings season. And before I get going, one day before Valentine's Day, I want to make sure that everybody has a great day tomorrow. I'm going to flip to my second page, and we're going to see quickly, this is a bit of background about myself. My name is Nicholas Carreras. I'm a product manager at Senteo. Prior to working at Senteo, I created a sell-side research company called Solar Research. Before that, I worked at a firm called United First Partners. Before that, at HSBC. And before that, I spent a long time as an investment banker at JP Morgan covering telecom media tech, doing M&A, credit, and equity offerings. So I've used every platform under the sun, and Senteo is a ton of fun. Today, what I really want to hone in on is the idea of how we can help save you time and find insights that you may miss during earnings season. I'm going to answer all questions at the end of the webinar. So if you have any, please feel free to enter them in the question mark bar, which is on the side in the webinar panel. And the big picture as a starting point is, really at Senteo, we're dedicated to helping you fight the data overload and organize disorganized information across text, financials, and market data, as well as alternative data. Before I jump in with kind of the big picture, the big picture today is going to be this idea of how do I look at push versus pull systems to receive data and also grab data that's relevant to me. We think about push as setting up alerts, and we can set alerts on linguistics within documents to be received to your mobile applications or to your email or to the desktop app itself. We can create template charts and then have them be pushed to you so it's very easy to use them. And we can push data to all of your mobile apps so that you have everything while you're on the go. Pulling data would include items like table extraction, to obtain KPI data seamlessly and quickly. Another example of pulling data would be redlining. One of the key features in Senteo is the ability to redline different company documents. So I could redline a 10K versus a 10K of the same company, or I could even do two different companies and redline their MD&As or their definition of COGS. And all of this then goes to the idea of creating content that's easy to track. That's going to be today's picture, and this is the third installment of the earnings season review, right as we're in the earnings. So as a quick recap, in the first installment, what we did is I started to identify the U.S. restaurant industry using minimum max market size. I turned that into a watch list. We created several queries to that watch list across SEC filings, broker research, transcripts, our own internal notes, and investor presentations. We identified relevant passages, we tagged them, stored them, and incorporated them into our notes. We shared our notes, and we also did quick review of financials across the platform and across the plugin. In the second installment, we really played with my CEO asked me to actually write a thesis on Wingstop, and our CEO used to be a consumer analyst at Viking, so we're in Citadel, and he knows the sector really well, and we spent a lot of time with the restaurant companies here. So I really went into looking at understanding the KPIs of Wingstop, and that was looking at total number of stores relative to potential number of stores, and comparing that and creating an industry total, looking at financials, looking at valuations, looking at shareholders, and then using Sentieo to incorporate all that data into both a note and a thesis, and showing how all that data is stored within our research management system, or RMS. Those 2 webinars were recorded. They're available on YouTube. You can do them at any time. And today, I'm just going to jump right into really playing with the idea of setting up and receiving alerts. And I'll show kind of one of my page. This is how I can receive them versus my email. And with that, I'm going to jump right into my Sentieo. And what you're going to see is I'm in my document search. I can quickly start typing up my watch list. So I've got U.S. restaurant. There it is. I'm going to tab in. I'm going to say what matters to me is wage inflation. And what I can do, I'm actually going to just run a search. I'm going to open all the documents very quickly. I'm going to jump into what is our query builder. And I want to say I really want to understand wage inflation and minimum wage. And that's something I talked about on the previous call. And what I'm going to do this time is I want to save an alert to this. So I'm going to click wage inflation or minimum wage, run query. Up, my query is run. I'm running this across all documents. So you see I've got a note here on recession overview tied to Wing. I've got sell-side research. So I've got up, I think Jack and Danny's reported this morning. I can click in. We'll see up immediately what Oppenheimer is talking about on the impact of minimum wage for Jack in the Box. And what I can do is I can actually say, what I really want to hone in on is I'm going to try and narrow this down to only being in the transcripts and only when the management team speaks. So I'm saying NTR : management, clicking enter. Up, I've narrowed down my results. We've already got results from yesterday and a couple of last days, and here we go. We immediately have like Chipotle, and I can quickly see wage inflation, boom. Now, how do I save this? Very simple. To the left of my tickers or watch list, I have a hamburger, and I can click Save Search. I have a pop-up box, and I'll call this my QSR wage inflation. You'll see I'm running it across my watch list US restaurants. What's my query? I'm only running it in transcripts. I have any other kind of filters would pop up, and at the bottom I can say I'm going to get real-time alerts to my desktop and to my email. I'll hit the drop-down. We default to none. And I'm going to do this as a daily digest, which is one email at the end of every day with every mention or snippet of wage inflation that matches my query tied to this watch list. And I'm going to click Save. Now, how does this come into my Sentieo? So I'm going to click right back, and you're going to see I'm actually going to jump into my email box to show my email box to start. And you'll forgive me from the starting point, but I can click right into my alerts, and you'll see I have all of my searches here. And I can quickly say up here, I've got a search, which is US restaurants. So this is my total group. And you can see up, it's picked up one new mention of same-store sales in my query. It's across GTIM. It's in their Q1 that came out. There were 4 results. I'm sorry, it's the transcript. Here are the results. And you'll see that while I saved SSS as the query, it also picks up comparable restaurant sales, same-store sales. So we're running synonyms across this. On all of my revenue snippets, I can click this area, which is View in Sentieo. Now we're going to grow our same-store sales through. And I click on View in Sentieo. It'll take me right to the section or the snippet which matches that query. So there we go. From my email box, I get alerted. I can jump right into the document. The other area where I can get all of my results is I click on the little bell. This was the desktop option. In the desktop option, you're going to see I have several features, filings, news. I can click keywords, and you can see that I've got a bunch of my keywords here. So in this instance, I've got SOTP, which is coming up a lot, and I'm guessing it's going to be in broker research. And I'll just click into, let's say, my ADMA, and it'll bring me right to the section that matches my query. How do I delete one of these saved queries? That hamburger button, load search, and from here, not only can I delete them, but I can also manage them. So you see, I have a lot of queries. I have some saved to tickers, so TransDime, don't know. The CEO is famous for saying, I don't know, 33 times on, I think it was the Q1 2017 earnings call. And you can see I'm saving them either to tickers, to watch lists. The query is told you here when it was created. And I can also very quickly see, here it is, QSR wage inflation. I've got it as a daily digest, a check mark, and I have a trash can. I can click the trash can, delete the query. So this is kind of the starting point. What else can I do? The other area that I have a bell is within my mobile apps. So what I'm going to try and do very quickly is start showing off my mobile app, and I'm going to quickly show you how my alert can also come in my phone if I'm traveling while during earnings season. And let's see. One second as I try and figure out, let me see if I can play and get that set up. Up. Seems like we've got something, so up. Well, I'm having a little bit of issues at the moment, so if it doesn't work after one more try, I'll try it again later at the end. I'll have to come back to that at the end, unfortunately. So I will click out and we'll come right back to our results. And what I'm going to do, and I had planned to jump into the mobile app, is the other areas that I can start doing is creating template charts, and template charts that I can then reuse and very simply share, collaborate, and run them consistently. So what I could do is start thinking about, I'm going to stay with my restaurant company. I can very quickly jump into what we call our plotter. I can say I'm going to take my revenue, pick Chipotle, run this as a last 12 months. I'm going to click Add Series, and I'm going to swap this using our settings to a bar chart. And I can go back 10 years. There we go. So we can see a really nice evolution of Chipotle LTM sales. And I can also quickly add in any of the other data. So I could say, I want to add in EV to sales, Twitter mentions, and I could think of Burrito Bowl as an example, but I'll do EV to sales. I'll put in Chipotle. I'm going to click in, do NTM, click Add Series, and in 30 seconds, I've got my NTM firm value to sales compared to my sales absolute LTM basis. And you can see the significant fall off through the scandals from 2015 through 2018 and a massive reversion in the last 2 months, which has driven the share price. And I could also quickly just add in the share price. There we go. I'll click Add Series. And that share price really, really hones in on with that multiple and the revenue growth. I can very quickly say, you know what? I'm going to save this chart. I'm going to call this my revenue versus multiple versus price. I could describe it here. EV to rev versus stock price. I can share this with anybody in my team. There we go. I can set alerts or not have an alert, and I can save this as a template. And once I've saved this as a template, I can access it at any point. So I can click into my template. Here's my revenue versus multiple price, and I can now change the ticker. So I could very quickly say, okay, why don't I just quickly say wing. Copy to all, add series. Now Wingstop IPO'd in 2015. I'll only go back 3 years. And there we go. All of this data, I can also very simply export it to Excel. I can create what's called a short link, which is a web link, and I could then use that to allow anyone to click into my chart and recreate it. I can also use my templates. I'm going to pop over my template box again, and you're going to see that I've got approximately 11 templates saved. So I can quickly jump in and say, hey, maybe I want to look at retained earnings versus returns, or revenue versus EBIT margin. And why don't I just do retained earnings versus returns? And I can just type in any company at this stage. So I could say Google, copy to all, add series, click back, and make sure I've got it set to all time. And, to no great surprise, we can see an exponential growth in the retained earnings of Google with very, very, very steady ROIC. So it seems like over the last decade, 30% to 20%, and an ROE ballpark 15% or 10% to 20%. Any of these charts, when I have them created, again, I can export it to Excel. I can create a short link, and I can also add them into any note in my notebook. So what I could do is I'm going to click on my notebook icon. I'm going to say I only want to search notes that I've typed, so I can do a shortcut here, typed, and I'm also going to say a specific ticker like Waste Connection. I'm going to hit enter. It brings me immediately to my Waste Connection note. And in 30 seconds, I've got my full note built on Waste Connection. You'll see I've written up a bunch of text, and I have all of my charts. So I've got my first chart, which is revenue versus leverage with expanding leverage. And it's really due to M&A acquisition, driving the top line growth as well. You're going to see I also chart EBIT margin versus revenue. And I can see the dark blue line is the actual annual revenue compared to the margin. Looks to have been fairly steady with some oscillation over the last decade. And I can keep coming down, and you'll see I've got my historical margins where I'm running a quarterly gross margin relative to a quarterly EBIT and EBITDA. Retained earnings versus returns, which we just did for Google. All of my charts are very simple. They've all been built. They're all in one place. Once you've got those templates saved, you can share them. Anyone else can recreate them. And you can see you've got this short link. And if you click on the short link, it'll bring you right into a new window which has a chart, and you can recreate it. And I'm hopefully going to have that open in the next second or so. And there you go. You're going to see that I have retained earnings versus returns so I created this originally on January 21st, 2019. This is the chart as of January 21st, 2019. If I click open in Plotter, it will update the chart to be as of today. And there we go. We've added in everything I want to say more recent. Okay, so template charts, incorporating them into your notebook makes it just really easy to keep on top of the companies that you're covering. The next feature that I really want to play with, which I had on an introduction slide, is the concept of table extraction. I'll close all of my different windows. And I'm going to jump into my doc search once more. So our table extraction is the ability to extract any data from any table, from almost any document in a variety of ways. With SEC filings, any data in any SEC filing, I can pull it back 16 quarters. I can manipulate it. I can bring it into Excel, and I can also immediately chart it. So one of the examples I wanted to say, so sticking with the idea of our restaurant companies, I'm going to take Wingstop. So I'm just trying to catch up with anything new I don't think they've reported yet. I'll click in the query in :table, which is a shortcut to our tables. And I'm going to say restaurant end period, because I know that they have a table where they also always give you all of their starting and ending restaurants. So up, you see I have all of my documents. There we go. I can click into the latest queue. and it will run the search, and it'll bring me to the table, which has all of the number of restaurants: domestic franchise, domestic company, total domestic, total system. I have several buttons: export table to Excel, which allows me to just bring this table into Excel. My favorite and the most valuable, we just released it, is preview table. If we click on preview table, it will stitch together this table from the last ballpark 16 quarters. And so what you can see is I've got my domestic franchise, beginning of period, opening exposure required by company. I'm sure that some people have modeled out restaurant companies and had to model out the restaurant growth. And you can scroll down and see every single number is set up for you. If you click on any number, so if I click on the 1004 in Q118, please see, I'm going to put my mouse right now underneath the bottom of the screen. You have the actual tables from the file. So I click on 1004, takes me to Q118. There's the 1004. It also shows me the prior one, and there's the 901, which matches. I can scroll down. I could say, oh, you know, I want to look at total domestic restaurants, click into, and there we go. There's my 994, and there's the 967 as well. And I can scroll through these any which way I want. What else can I do? So one of the really cool parts that we love with this feature is we're allowing you to set up the views any way that you want. So in this instance, the Q4 is the actual number, so I can use Q4 data, but if it were a cash flow statement, I can click calculate and it would impute the Q4 number. I can say that I want to put the fiscal year columns. In my view, I put them on the right, but I could also have them on the left. I can also put them in line, so right after Q4, my favorite's on the right. I can group the data by year. I can group it by quarter, so I could see Q1 across the last 4 years. I'm going to click back and do by year. And I can also inverse the order, so move 2018 to the left, 2018 will go to the right, and inverse by quarter. The other fun stuff we can start doing now, and we're really excited, although my voice might sound monotonous. We can click on table value, and on table value, originally what we do is we always pull the data exactly as it comes in, but I can also do a year-over-year change. And I'm now running what is the change of Q3 versus Q3, Q2 versus Q2. So all the stuff that you'd be doing in Excel and running calculations off, we can do it right here for you and allow you to see it. I can also swap and do quarter over quarter. And I can also do it as the year over year delta as the actual number, right? And so you could see massive, massive increases, but a slight slowdown, right? I went from 134 restaurants at the end of period, you know, within the domestic franchise to about 103, and this is new, or total. So this is some of the really powerful features that we're really excited about with the new table extraction. Now, what else can I do from here? So let's say I'm going to take total system-wide restaurants and I can highlight it. And we have a button which says plotter. Plotter, and I'm going to click selected rows. What this allows me to do is I can immediately chart any number which is in any table, which is one of the tables that we've pulled. So here we go. I have my total system-wide restaurants. My access is the number of restaurants. And I've got this add series. I could add the revenue. And again, I think I was looking at Wingstop. I hope I was. And what I'll do is, given that it's a total restaurant, I'm going to do it as an LTM number. So I've got my LTM sales. I'm going to click add series. And we can see the exponential growth in restaurants. So it's kind of matching it in line. That's great. And one of my favorite features, again, is this idea of how can I not only use the data, but really run calculations and analytics off it. I can start doing B divided by A. So I use the hybrid series feature. And I'm running a mathematical calculation saying my total revenue divided by my total system-wide number of restaurants. I'm going to click add series. I'm going to rename this. So I'll call this sales per restaurant. And I can also very quickly add an access, right? Or simply say, I'm going to move this to my left-hand axis, and there we go. And I'm going to rename this to being sales per restaurant. And I can click back into series. So now I can very clearly see my sales per restaurant has seen dramatic increases as of January 2018. I can save this chart, and I can call this CMG, per store increasing dramatically. I have my ticker associated with it. I can put a tag in, and a tag is an index system that you create yourself. So a ticker is a tagging system that's been created for you by the company. And I can share this. I'm going to share this in this instance with my entire team. I'm not going to send a notification. I uncheck that, and I'm going to click Save. There we go. One of my absolute favorite features. All of my charts are also shared or stored in my notebook. So if I click into that notebook feature, you'll see immediately, here's that chart that I've already created. I'm going to hop right back into the document search. And I'm also, actually, I'll jump right back into the table chain. My apologies. What I could also do, I'm going to uncheck this box, is anything which is here, I can bring it all into Excel. So I'm going to say Excel, all rows, export. And hopefully in less than 10 seconds, there we go. I have the entire data across the restaurant, new store, closures, openings for the last 16 quarters. And I could bring this into my model. And you could run this on any table in any SEC filing. That is one of the really cool features. What's another really cool feature with our table extraction? We can extract any data from a table in sell-side reports. So if I click into my document search, and what I could do is I can start playing with, again, I'll stay with Wingstop. I could say wing. I'm going to do in:RR, which is our research reports. And I'm going to do SSS, which stands for same store sales. And hopefully, right, I can see very quickly I have a lot of results. And I could say, what's a simple one to look into? I've got a Stevens here. Boom, I'm just going to click into the one which is being raised. It has 9 hits. I already have a highlight in here. I can scroll down, I'm crumbing through, and I'm starting to see, this is great. Here we go, metrics. So I've got an entire sell side kind of model with the same store sales. I can click my button, show export table buttons, and it's this little button up here. And I click into the document. There's the button. I'm going to click export table, and it's going to export the entire table into Excel for me. And there we go. I can enable editing. And I'll quickly just change some of the column width. There we go. I'll turn this into something like 8. And there we go. We've got the data laid out really, really cleanly. So you can go from the document right into Excel. I really love this functionality. I thought it'd be fun to have another kind of quick example. So the other one I was thinking is I could also do something, and I'll just do document search again. I'm going to say my entire watch list. So I can just click here, click US restaurants total. I'm going to do in RR again. So the same concept. I'm going to say something like wage cost. And I clearly have a lot of results. I could also say maybe I want to sort instead of date by pages, because I want to really find maybe like an industry report. So great. Mizuho wrote a massive note on the entire industry a couple of weeks ago. There are a lot of results. I can click into kind of this second result, and I can start seeing up the wage cost. And here we go. Here's an overall model about the impact of wage costs across the entire industry. And again, I'll click on my button, show table export buttons. And I can very quickly export table. And it will bring this entire table right into Excel for me. So anytime I'm thinking about how to model, wage inflation across a specific company within this sector, I can immediately refer back to this model and incorporate this growth rate, or at least benchmark this growth rate relative to what other brokers might be saying. And there we go. Everything is done in 30 seconds. So that covers a lot of the concept with this idea of table extraction. really one of my absolute favorite features within the platform. What was the other topic that I really wanted to touch upon, especially during earnings seasons, which we haven't done yet? And that's the idea of how to redline a document. Redline is the idea of how do I compare the current text versus the prior text in a filing. So I can very quickly, I'm going to pick Chipotle, which I think recently just came out with, right? And I could say, okay, I want to look at wage inflation in Chipotle and see for any changes. I'm going to do a shortcut, which is in : CFs or 10K, but I'll use CF, which is all company filings. And again, I'm going to look at wage inflation. Up, here's a 10K that was just filed. I can click right into here. I see every mention of wage inflation. And what I can start thinking of is I can click in the top right, we have a little button which says redlining options. I can click on that. And what I'm going to do is say, I want to track all changes. I can also say only numbers. I'm going to track it of this K versus the prior K. I can also check it versus the prior quarter or the 16 quarter. And I can also enter a custom ID. Every document in Sentieo has an ID number. In the menu bar, you'll see every document has a doc ID. You could copy it, bring it into that red line, all changes, and paste it in here. So if you wanted to compare how Chipotle describes its COGS for raw materials relative to Wingstop within the accounting notes, you can do that in 30 seconds. For now, I'll keep it simple. Redlining, wage inflation, Chipotle, current K versus prior K. And we can immediately see where it was mentioned in the first mention, it's brand new, they didn't have it. I'll click into the second snippet, again, brand new paragraph, labor cost increase as a percentage, wage inflation. Click into the third result, boom, here we go, labor cost. Nothing has changed here except they've gotten rid of a bunch of text. And if you put your mouse over the passages, you can always compare the old text versus the new text. I'll try, there we go. So we expect food and beverage, and then labor cost increased. This is all new. We really love this, and there's a lot of concepts we have with how to play with old and new text to allow you to run analytics off it. So that is one of the big parts that we love. Now, what are some of the other fun parts that we can think? I could look at one of the big trends in the restaurant industry is digitalization. And I could see how does digitalization talks change. So I could, again, just swap out here. I could say I want my entire group. And I could do digitalization, and I could run redline off that as well. Oops, and I may have mistyped it somehow. But what I'll also do is I'm just going to jump into presentation. So in presentations, it's just searching the presentations. Maybe I'll just do digital. Just keep it simple. Perfect. And so what's really interesting is there's a massive movement toward digital across the sector, right? And that's the idea of everyone is ordering their food now from their phone using DoorDash. And you can start playing around. And I'll just click into one of my Wingstop examples. And I've got every mention, right, of how digital comes into their investor day. And I think this is a couple of really powerful slides. So you got this very quickly in 30 seconds. And I know I swapped a little bit from the idea of the redlining. What I can do here, though, and I wanted to show it off, was any data in a presentation, we have a screenshot button. I can just quickly click it. I can give it a name, like Wing Digitalization. I can give it a label, and we'll type one in. And I can click done. And this gets stored very quickly. And you can also see every mention here, and we're there in 30 seconds. Let me see, boom. I was just trying to think if there's any. There we go. So that's some of the fun stuff. The other item I really wanted to try and show today was some of our mobile app functionality. So I'm going to take 3 seconds and just try to relaunch one of my items. to show that off very quickly, and then I'll just start taking questions if there are any questions. Let's see. Perfect. Well, I couldn't get my iPhone, but I got my iPad up. So I'm going to hop out of here. Boom. There we go. Jump right into my Sentieo. I'll try and quickly sign in. I'm sorry about this. I had everything working ahead of the call. We'll try one more time. Perfect. Took a second, but there we are. So what I could very quickly see is if I'm on the go during earnings season, how can I also use the platform to do everything and a lot of the items I just showed, right? So the doc search, everything will be here, and I can just quickly jump in. Up, there's wing, type wing, and I can say store sales, and I've immediately got all of my results. I can click into any one of these. It'll open the document. It'll also open all of the results. And you can see that I'm scrolling here on the left-hand side, jump into one of these results. Let's say this is exactly what matters. Just like I can do in the platform, I can create a highlight. And I'll just do it very quick just to do this idea. I'll say I don't want to use component pricing. I want to use my overview. Boom. And boom. Done. And there we go. And so you can do all of the highlighting exactly like you would do it from the web app. And I'll just click right back into here. I can also do the same kind of filtering. So if I click on my filter button, I could say all I care about is when there's a mention of same-store sales. And I can say only on a transcript, only when the management is talking. Boom, done. And I should have all of my results update. And I'll try that one more time. Let me see, filters, I'll click out of there. I'll just say just the sections. And perfect, so perfect results. Here are all my transcripts. And I can click into the first transcript from January 14th. And there we go. And I could say up, in fact, same-store world, and I'll just highlight this bit as well. There we go. And I can say up, there's my highlight. I want to use my overview button. Click done. There it is. Jump into my notebook, and you'll immediately see all of the highlights that I will just have created. So there's the wing stop. I'll click on highlights. There's the highlight, and I can jump into this while we were on our call. I also did the snippet of bringing in any kind of pictures. So I can do a highlight, and there's that picture in one place. From here, I can also access all of my notes. So one of the items I could say is I want to just say my notes and only my typed notes, and maybe only my typed notes for waste connections. So I'll just do WCN, and I can click right into it. And just like I showed earlier, here's this entire note. And here are all of my charts, all of my links to my charts. Very, very clean. And I can also click into my comments and say, yep, there's no comments here. I'll jump out of waste connections. On the prior webinar, we looked at Wingstop, and you're going to see I have a bunch of Wingstop documents. Right, so I've got my type notes, my notes, and I can just quickly scroll and see everything that I've done. Right, so there's my Wingstop overview, and here is the entire item that I've done. And I can also quickly check here in the comment box, boom, we have comments around the documents. And you can start writing and say, oh, and everything gets pushed in. Very, very quick other key fun little parts. I can look at any numbers, so I can say, oh, there's Wingstop. I look at quarter 14 through 2020. I've got EPS. I could pick revenue. I also show a chart at the bottom which shows everything. So in one place, I've got everything. I can quickly run my comps. I've got Wingstop in the top left. There we go. Red line, Chipotle, Kona, standard comps view. Charts. I can do a very simple price chart, but I can also put in any kind of estimates or any saved series. So I'm running diluted EPS. I can swap it to revenue. And there is my NTM total revenue versus my share price. And I can just click on like the stock and I'll get rid of it. And I'll only show NTM revenue, or I could show it as 15 and 14. So this is a great, great starting point. And the last part is really the portfolio. And this comes to our research management system. So what you could say is these are all the companies that we cover at Sentieo within our teams. And the top right, I can pick any of the companies that I cover. So what I could very quickly say is, oh, here is my U.S. restaurant. So this is my watch list. You'll see that we have a couple of people who cover some of them, and there I am. There's Mr. Dan Berman and Mr. Arib. I could click at any name. I could click into Wingstop, and it'll immediately bring into my thesis. And again, I also have all of my comments in my thesis. I've spoken for a long time, and I'm really, really excited by the platform. Hopefully, I've transmitted some of that excitement. And with that said, I'm going to hand it over to opening any questions. And I'm going to try and turn off my screen share with this mobile app. So with that, Cynthia or Denise?
Well, first, I'd like to jump in. First, thank you very much, Nick. And I'd like to remind anyone, if you do have questions, there is that questions panel that's located on the right-hand side of your screen. Simply double-click the title bar, and then you can submit any questions that you might have for Nicholas at this point. All right, so with that, I believe Denise is going to join us for some of the questions that have come in.
Well, hi, Cynthia and Nick. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at Sentieo, and the first question I have for Nick from one of our viewers is there a way to have the software select and then model the top most correlated data items, parentheses, sales, revenue, store count, etc., across time?
So I think that the question is asking of, can I pull the key data points that I want consistently across time? And the way I think about it, and I may have misunderstood it, but I would always be thinking yes. So there are two ways to think about it, is creating a saved chart and pulling, whatever you think is important. So again, what I'll do is I'm going to try and, there we go. I'm going to stop mirroring my screen for a second. And I'll jump right back into my Sentieo. And what I think the question is, what I would always recommend is create whatever you think is the most important aspect. Save those templates and they update automatically for any ticker across time. And so I can jump right in my templates. I'm going to take my favorite one, which is my sentiment spread versus NTM versus PE. And I'll just quickly take Wingstop. But I get to pick any ticker, and it's done. The other way to answer the question is you can save any series. So if you pull something from preview table, like the number of restaurants, you can save that as a series and then incorporate that into any chart. So this is a chart that I'd pre-built, but what I could also do is if I jump into open a new plotter window, in my series, I can have something like load save series. And what I could do is I say, oh, here we go. I actually, back on that first webinar on the restaurant industry, I had saved a bunch of series on labor costs. So I could say, maybe I want to take wing labor costs. And I could say, I also want to take Zoe's labor costs. All right, and it's clearly a different access. I could also do this as a percent of sales. So yes, the idea is I can save series, I can save charts, I can pull any of that data and incorporate it. Thanks, Denise.
Great. So we have a couple other questions, one of which is coming from Sam, and he's wondering, can you plot press release versus price?
Yes, you can. I absolutely love that question. So the easiest place to do it, or for me, the easiest place to do it, you could do it within Plotter. For me, it's always easier to just do it in the equity data interval, and I'll take Wingstop, or I could have used CMG. And what I can do is I can go into charts, and I'll go into my historical chart. And what you can see is we have a button here, which is add series. And I could add any data within here. So if I want to add, news, there we go, we have the news. And if you hover over it, it'll tell you exactly what the news is, right? And I could add like filings. And there's the filings relative to the stock price. I can also run this. I like this view as candles, but you could also do it as a straight line. So great question, Sam. And we have a ton of additional metrics that you could bring in.
Awesome. So our next question comes from Dave, and he's wondering, for the SEC filings, do the users need to download all the SEC filings, or is it all available in Senteo?
Great question. So really, I'd say the number one advantage of Senteo is that we have all of the global public company documents in one place. You do not need to upload anything. And I'll just click on my doc type again. So I have all SEC filings, all investor presentations, even presentations that have been taken off the website, all research reports. So I can even very quickly, and if you have, and we don't grant entitlements, we only act as a pass-through, but I can very quickly say, across my entire watch list, right, I just want to make sure I get alerted every time there's a new research report that comes out, with the word increasing guidance. And I have just, for some reason, had a restart of my PC. So I apologize for that. But to answer the question, you don't need to upload any documents. We amalgamate all documents, SEC filings, transcripts, presentations, everything. It should be very easy. Keep asking questions, Denise. I'll answer them as soon as my screen starts working again. I'll shut off with my screen, but I could definitely answer any and all questions.
So let's see. Our next one is again from Dave, and he was asking even sell-side research reports. So I think that was a continuation of the last question, which you answered. Anything to add about sell-side research reports?
I just want to make sure I emphasize that we don't grant you any entitlements. We only, if you have entitlements, we can pass them through. And then all of the functionality of Senteo works on those research reports. Denise, I think you might be on mute.
So that's all our questions.
Right, and in this scenario,
well, if that's all the questions, I want to thank everybody for their time. I would encourage everyone to visit the Sentieo website, sign up for a trial. We really run a great trial process to help understand what you're looking to get out of it and how we can best help you achieve that and what might be most valuable. We have a phenomenal live support team, which is really there to help you as well. And I guess the last thing I want to say, thank you again to Cynthia and Interactive Brokers.
Well, Nick, and thanks to you and to Sentieo for today's presentation. I'd like to remind everyone that we have been recording today's event, and if you do want to come back and review any of the concepts that were discussed, simply watch our email later on today for a direct link to today's recorded playback. By the way, today's event and the previous events that Nicholas had mentioned earlier are also listed on the Interactive Brokers website. You can find them underneath the education menu. There's a webinar section, and go into the recordings where you can simply filter by Sentieo or by presenter, which is Nicholas Carreras. So with that, we are going to conclude today's event. Thanks all of you for your participation here this afternoon. You can exit using the X in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Have a great rest of your day, everyone, and thank you.